Hey guys, if you can think about how you found this podcast, maybe it's on Instagram or TikTok, maybe someone shared it with you. I don't run ads for the show or have sponsorships, so the only way this grows is through word of mouth. If this was valuable for you in any way, my only ask is if you could share this with someone who you think would help their investing journey or business. Thanks a lot, and let's get to the episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to SDR Like the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. I had the great pleasure of welcoming my friend Chewy to the show today. Chewy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, I just got back from that wedding in Venice, and on the plane ride back, I was actually really looking forward to this conversation. I hadn't done a pod in like maybe 2 weeks, so I was really excited because you and I haven't really talked, but you and I have known each other for a long time through social media.
Yeah.
Chewy was one of the first guys I did an Instagram live with. Maybe was it May of 22, maybe something like that.
It wasn't May. It was in the winter for sure.
Was it winter?
It was like November, I think, before I went to Utah to start my units. So I went in November of 2022.
2022. Yeah. I remember it was like really cold up there. So we're going to talk all about this. Like, I think that's when you really launched your business. And the funny thing is, Eric and I, we're two guys living in Queens. We have the same dentist.
Yeah.
Funny enough. And we're like, I put something on social media at my dentist's office, and he's like, "Hey man, I go to the same dentist." I'm like, "All right, let's talk short-term rentals." So, folks out there, the power of social media, always tell your story. You never know, the cool connections you'll make. So with that kind of preamble, so Chewy, why don't you, just introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us where you're from, what did you do before short-term rentals, and kind of where you are in the short-term rental journey right now.
Okay. My name is Chewy, born and raised in Queens. Little interesting story about me is I actually, after college, I spent 10 years in Shanghai, China, doing all sorts of different things, different businesses, just dabbing my foot in different things and trying to, figure out a direction in life and, business. Definitely a learning journey in China. Very interesting things, met a lot of different people, a lot of business people as well. And then when COVID started, 2020, I actually came back to America. And, I eventually got my real estate license in New York City. So technically, I'm still a licensed agent right now in New York City. So that was kind of what I was doing before I started doing short-term rentals. I was doing commercial real estate. I think I just saw some ads on Instagram about Arbitrage. And that's how I actually started it up again. Funny thing was, like 10 years ago, when I first got to like Shanghai, China, I actually was doing arbitrage before I even realized what it was.
Before it was called arbitrage.
Right. And
tell us about that. I remember that though. Tell us about that, like, because that was your first taste, and I think that was a really cool story. We hit on that, a year and a half ago when we last talked. But why don't you just give us a short refresher on that one?
Yeah. So pretty much it was like I was living in this big 2-story apartment with some of my coworkers. Eventually, one by one, they all moved out or left the company, and I was just living in this huge place by myself. And I had a friend that came over to have dinner with me, and he was like, "It's like, Chewy, like, why do you live here by yourself in this giant space, and you have these empty rooms?" And I'm like, I told him what happened. Like, my coworkers all left, and it's just me now. And he's like, "Oh, do you mind giving me a tour?" And then he was like, "There's this website called Airbnb. You should check it out." He's like, "I think you could rent these out for like 2,500 RMB each a pop." So total, it was like 5,000 RMB. And I'm like, "Are you sure? Because my rent here is 3,700. Like, you're telling me I could rent out those 2 rooms for 5,000?" And he was right. And nice. I ended up
so look, give us the FX rate though. Like, what's 5,000 RMB? What's that in dollars? Just I know the answer, but just to go ballpark.
That's about 700. It's about $700, right? I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Depending on the exchange rate right now, it's about $700.
So you were living in like a fat apartment in Shanghai for $700 10 years ago.
It was less. Like I said, mine was
27. I forgot you said 2,700.
37 RMB, 3,700 RMB, which was like, I don't know, like $500-600 or whatever, right? And then my friend was like, "You could rent both of these rooms out for a total of like 700." And he was right. So I was like living there for free, and I had extra money in my pocket every month.
That's awesome. Like you literally fell backwards into it, right? Like, I always tell people in my mastermind, like 2x the rent. So you basically were
Right.
2x your rent and you were living there. So it's funny. I actually like, there's another good buddy of mine that's in New York too. He started around the same time, actually 2013. He actually was living in Brooklyn. He was married and then he got divorced. Wife left, kind of lost his job too. And he was just like, I got to make rent somehow. And then he was just figuring out a way to pay his rent, found Airbnb, rented out his place. And a month later, he's like, this is what I'm going to do. And
Right.
him and his
Wow.
business partner owned like 31 Airbnb. I mean, he was a big arbitrage guy in New York City pre-COVID. And then him and his partner have 31. They own 31 Airbnbs in New Jersey. So I won't give the market away or anything. I don't want to, hurt
Right.
someone's
Right.
business.
Right.
But yeah, like this is it's funny. It's the second story I've heard of just an empty room and I need to figure it out. And what's this Airbnb thing? And off to the races.
Right. Right. And at that time in Shanghai, China, like I don't think many people knew what it was. So I don't think there was much competition for me at that time. So it was just pretty awesome, like getting booked out and meeting a lot of the international travelers.
Very nice, Ernest. I'm sure that's a nice way to expand your network. And yeah, look, I mean, I think maybe talk about that a little bit, right? Like, you expanded your business. Talk about when we connected, right, in November 22. You've been doing commercial real estate, and I think you were launching a business in Utah with a business partner. So maybe just start with like what you saw on Instagram, the ad, and then like what you did with that information, and then how'd you get started?
Um, so to be fair, I don't want to say any specific ads because I ended up taking, I think I took like 3 courses.
Tell us the course.
Um,
Tell us the course. I mean, if you don't mind, tell us the courses.
some were
They
good,
weren't.
some were not as good.
They weren't my courses, so.
Um,
If you don't have to if you don't want. I don't want to put you on the spot, but like I think it's actually good for people to hear because like people are like,
for
oh, you
sure,
see all this stuff online, right? Like
for sure.
what's real, what's not. And I think for you, it's like you actually bought 3 because maybe the first 2 didn't work out, and then you kind of got to the right answer, and it's got you to this business. So that might be valuable for people to hear that.
So you want me to be honest, even if
I
I think
think
you might,
I think you should be as honest as you want to be. Everyone
yeah,
listening here wants to hear it.
I agree, I agree. So I think the first ad I saw was Hamza's ad, Hamza Safar. His course was, I think, probably the best one that I took.
Okay.
A lot of information, a lot of just nuggets of wisdom and stuff that I didn't even realize would be a problem. And then he would like tell you like, oh, if this happens, so I learned a lot.
Nice.
I also took I think it was his business partner, Derek Chung's course. That one I don't think was as good. And
Okay.
I have to say I didn't have a good experience being his student. And my first 3 units actually came from him. I paid him a very crazy referral fee. And that's actually how I met my business partner, Casey.
Yeah.
We were both paid a lot of money to him, and that's how we met each other. We saw each other furnishing units, and we've been on the journey ever since then. So we laugh about it.
The referral fee was for the friendship, it wasn't for the unit, I guess.
That's what we said. We was like, you know what? That money we paid was worth it because we met each other. So the bromance started like that.
I think that's the right mindset. Like one road leads to another, right? Sometimes like you just keep moving forward and then you find the opportunities that present themselves. So it's funny. So like, so you bought Hamza's course first. I know Hamza real well, really sharp guy, great information. Approaches, he's at like 300 plus units. Like just, he does it in a different way than I do, right?
Yeah.
I'm more, I'm buying and arbitraging. He's a straight arbitrage. Derek, same thing. I'll let him kind of tell his own story. Like, why the third one? Actually, I'm kind of curious. Why'd you buy the third course? And who was the third course?
The third one was from John Farber, and I bought it because I was in a mastermind, and he was a guest speaker that came on the mastermind one of the weeks, and I kind of just liked everything he said. His course was good too, but it was kind of a little bit misleading and disappointing because I was trying to learn about arbitrage, and his was mostly teaching about like buying. So it really depends what people are looking for, So I always ask them like, hey, like, what do you want to learn? And I can like make a recommendation for them.
Got it. Hey man, this is great. I'm glad you're giving like a real, and you're not this isn't your core business. And I think it's really important for people to hear that,
For sure.
kind of what's out there, right? What kind of value you can get from it. So it sounds like the first one, a lot of knowledge. Second one, not as much knowledge, but you gained a business partner, which is extremely valuable. And third, you swung and missed, but it's kind of okay, right? Like if you never swing, right, it's okay to swing and miss, right? As long as you're continuing to make progress. Like if you swung and missed the first one and just stopped, it would have really sucked, right? Because you wouldn't be where you are today. So
No,
I'd really
no,
want
for
people
sure.
to
Yeah.
kind of, I really want to, sorry, I want to hone in that message, right? Like it's okay to swing and miss, right? Just know your downside, but it's really important to take swings, like smart swings, and always look for opportunities, even if it's not exactly, you're at least in a room with other people that are trying to do the same thing. Maybe you find a business partner, maybe you find some private capital, maybe you get some knowledge. Like there's a lot of ways to get value.
For sure.
Sorry, but please continue. I know you had a
No,
point too
no,
as
no.
well.
I just absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I just have so many friends always asking me, like, they're so scared to pay money for a course and to learn and for self-education. And I'm like, bro, like, how much did you pay for college? Like,
Yeah.
you pay, like, you took out debt and you're like 40 to 50 G's or more for college. And like, what did you learn? Like, did you learn how to make money? Is anything useful for you today in life? And a lot of them are like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And I'm like, these courses I'm buying, they're not neither. They're a few $1,000s, but like 1,000 or 2,000, that's like on a low end. I think that's on a cheap end. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you guys so scared to like lose? I mean, I get it. Everyone is scared to lose money, but like, I just tell them like, look at their free stuff. If you think they're knowledgeable and they're giving good value on the free stuff, then maybe you can consider paying for their paid
Yeah.
courses.
Yeah, look, it takes a lot of, and then we can move on to this point because I don't want to make, this about the social media courses. I agree with you. It's a really odd thing because I think just society, the universities have their brands, right? And that's obviously really important. It's like you go to Harvard, you're not even really thinking about what you're learning. It's like, oh, I'm going to Harvard, right? And you're willing to pay $70,000 a year. But like, the funny thing is like, college doesn't actually teach you how to make money. All it is making you like trainable, actually. Just makes you
Right.
trainable for a company to be a worker. Right now, trained to be an entrepreneur, right? And the stuff that I think is the key point too, right? Like you got to find credible people online to learn from, because what you're getting is like real time knowledge. Like what are the real opportunities right now that like aren't going to be written in a textbook 20 years? They're going to be written in a textbook 20 years. It's way too late, right? You're learning
Right.
something that's like a year or two fresh. It's out. Someone's sharing their knowledge with you. They're asking for compensation, but like you're getting real time knowledge on a real business opportunity. And it's up to you to like, one, decide if it works for you. Two is to be able to sift through the real and the not real, right? But if you're a business person, like you got to have the confidence in yourself that you can make a good business decision, right? And if you can't make that kind of business decision on who to learn from, then maybe entrepreneurship isn't for you. You can't make those kind of decisions, and you're just a trainable person that should be working a W-2 job. As I tell people that too, like entrepreneurship's not for everyone, right? And you have to kind of have that right mindset. And if you don't have it now, but you can kind of get yourself there by like getting on that journey, making mistakes, learning from it, and just keep going. No one is born an entrepreneur. Like we're all learning, but like, do you have the
Yeah.
willingness to learn? Do you have the ability to learn? Are you willing to take risks? If you have those components to your personality, then you might be a good entrepreneur. But let's talk about your business. Like, tell us kind of how big is like, tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so right now I am at total 25 units.
Nice.
And I only manage one of them for a friend, and the rest are just my own arbitrage units.
Nice. And then when did you get your first unit?
It was September 1st, 2022. So we just passed the 2-year mark.
Congratulations.
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 years, 25 units. And as you kind of grew, right? Like, tell us about how you thought about growth. Like, were you just like, I'll take whatever someone gives me, or were you a little more prescriptive on like, I want this kind of layout, I want this type of class A, class B, I want at least 2 bedrooms, I want to be 5 minutes from the city center, I want parking? Like, how did you kind of think about your growth strategy?
So to be honest, I think in arbitrage, sometimes we don't have a lot of options to be like super picky, right? But like, I think we still need to have our guidelines and standards of what is a good business move. So after the first 3 that I got, which were like B to B minus type of units. You're dealing with roaches, you're dealing with rats, you're dealing with nasty management. And I was just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do something like that again. Whereas
Yep.
my next five was in a brand new luxury building. When I got in,
The
they were not
Utah,
even,
the Utah
yeah, in
ones, right?
Utah.
Yeah,
So they were not even open yet. So it was like,
yeah, I
I
remember
was like,
that.
wow, like this is nice. Like everything's brand new. Like I was living there for 2 weeks while I was like setting up, right? So I was like, oh, this is nice. You know, the gym, they have a nice gym. Everything's brand new. But of course, it's like nothing is perfect. Even with a brand new building, I'm the first one in there living there. It still has its problems, right? Because new construction has its problems. So the washer's not working, or the washer's leaking, or the power keeps tripping, or like um we had like in the 2 years or the almost 2 years I've been there, I think there was like 3 to 4 floods, and it was just I think
It
also like
happens.
poorly built sometimes. So it's like you gotta maybe have to find like a balance of like brand new or like fairly new, and someone tested out all the kinks and worked out all the kinks and got it all fixed already.
You want to be, you want to be the second. I always tell people like this house I just bought in the Catskills. I'm the second owner. The guy bought it first. He's owned it for 10 years, second home. Like you want something that like it's already kind of gone through its paces, like all the
Right.
problems have kind of been worked out,
Right.
but not too old where like, all the wear and tear starts adding up. All right. So let's get this to like 10 units, right? How have you grown the last, like kind of back half of your portfolio over the last 18 months?
um it was actually kind of funny. Like one of our cleaners recommended a building to us, and then that was 12 units right there. Me and my partner, we took 6 and 6 each. And yeah, it was just recommendations. Our team of VAs making calls, finding the buildings. Some we even found through social media. Some people were like posting and sharing, like, oh yeah, we got some units here, and then we were able to get some units there as well. So
Okay.
I think, yeah, just cold calling and a little bit of networking.
How many, like out of your portfolio, how many markets are you in? How many buildings are you in?
So I'm in Austin. I have a few in Austin, Salt Lake. I was in Tampa. I got rid of the house I had in Tampa, which kind of worked out because my handyman passed by last week and sent me a picture and said, "Hey, your house just flooded." So I was like, "Oh, good, good. I'm not there anymore because of the hurricane."
Oh, I'm sorry to
And
hear. It sucks. Or for the owner, at least. Yeah, it's terrible.
well, she kept my deposit, so I'm kind of laughing on the inside.
Oh.
um, and Nashville, I have a house there.
Are there permits that you need in Nashville, or are you like right outside the city center?
You need there's some areas that you need like either owner occupied permits or non-owner occupied permits. So they're
Gotcha.
getting more strict with it.
Gotcha. What would you say? Like, what would you say is your, as you're looking for like an ideal market, right? Like, where would you kind of reinvest if you had like, 100 grand right now? Where would you be investing in?
So I always, on the back of our minds, we're always kind of like worried about the economy, and it's like, oh, is the economy gonna go down, and then people are gonna start traveling, and it's like like a worry in the back of our minds always. So we usually try to like avoid too many places that are just strictly vacation destinations, right? Because in my mind, it's like, hey, when people, if the economy goes down and people are losing jobs, they don't have money, they need to tighten up, they're not going to be spending money on vacations and holidays and all this, like extra stuff.
Yeah.
So I usually try to like, okay, downtown, close to downtown. So no matter what, even if the economy goes down, I feel like people still kind of have to travel for business. They're downtown, they still kind of need to stay.
Gotcha. And there's a lot of ways to play this. That's for us, for our arbitrage portfolio, definitely downtown. We're all in one market in Philadelphia, and everything's within 10 minutes of city center, right? So,
Wow.
we get a mixture of play, of business, of tourism, right? Of
Right.
medical, because we're like kind of close by like a medical center too, and then I think I might have missed education already, but education we get, we're pretty close to like 2 universities, so we'll get some like summer kids that take summer school there and get a month, or like winter break. So it's a nice balance. I always like, I really try to optimize for, at least for arbitrage, like a market that has a lot of different, I think kind of similar to you, a lot of different demand vectors. Just like a lot
Right.
of people go there for a lot of different reasons. Because to your point, like I would hate to be in a place where it's just like, call like, sports or something. And then their sport team really sucks and they never, no one goes to
Yeah.
see them. And then you're kind of down for a year. But actually
Right.
for buying, I focus on I think you kind of almost have to focus on buying vacation rental markets because regulations change all the time. You buy something, you don't really want the ground to shift below you. So we try to buy stuff where the economy really is almost all like tourism, because then they won't ban short-term rentals or restrict it because the local economy is based on that, right? So that's how, at least that's how we think about it. But right or wrong, that's how, when I say we, my wife and I think about it. But actually, I want to hit back to a point about your business partner, because like Liz and I, we're business partner. We're also married. Tell about like, you mentioned you met your business partner in the second course that you bought. Like, how has that relationship worked out? Because I think a lot of people are like, yeah, like I'm busy, or maybe I don't have enough money. I really would use a partner, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. You've done it successfully now for a few years, so I'd love to hear your perspective.
So my situation, I think, is a little bit different from everyone else's because ours is separate in all aspects, and we kind of just met each other while we were starting the journey. So at this point, we just try to help each other as much as we can. So if he finds units and maybe he can't take them all, he'll give me some. Or if he has units, he's short on capital, I'm willing to spot him for a bridge loan or whatever it may be. If I find a good cleaner, of course, we'll share resources. And it's also, it helps in a way where it's like, hey, if you find some cleaners and you tell them you have like a bunch of units as opposed to just like my units. If I only have 6, I tell them, hey, we have 12 units. What's the best price you can do? Like,
Yeah,
it also helps
nice.
with the economies of scale as well.
Yeah, little group buy action there, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good that you kind of like share resources, but like just maybe talk more about like the journey, right? Because entrepreneurship can be kind of lonely, right? Like you need someone
Yeah.
that you can trust. One, not just to bounce ideas off of each other, but also someone that's kind of going through the same thing. Because like I just kind of think when I was back in investment banking, it was like really tiring and busy, and like my friends that weren't in finance would ask me about it. They'd be sympathetic, but they didn't really understand. Even like Liz, who was my girlfriend at the time, now wife, like I'd tell her, but she didn't really get it because she wasn't in the business. And now that we're in a business together, like, yeah, like we both kind of know what we're both going through. So we talk about that a little bit, like how having a partner, whether a spouse or like a formal business partner, like how has that kind of helped you as you navigated the ups and downs of this business?
Oh, I think it absolutely helps a lot because I honestly, if I didn't have my partner, I'm not sure if I would still be doing what I'm doing, So a lot of times it's like, especially since we're in the same buildings, if we have headaches, we have troublesome guests, the management's giving us problems, we can always call each other and like either vent or kind of just help each other solve the problem. So that's one thing that like if you just vent to your friends or a spouse, like you said, they'll be sympathetic, but like, are they gonna be able to give you some realistic solutions or like be able to help you at all?
Yeah, exactly. And like it's such a small circle to I think one, like trust, because for you to get real advice, you kind of have to tell them, like really tell them your problems,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's hard to air out all your dirty laundry to like someone you don't really know, right? You need to build a level of trust there. And then 2 is taking the advice, right? Like you can tell me the same thing, but if you and I don't have that trust level, I can give you the same advice or even better advice. You'd be like, yeah, well, maybe Mike's right. I don't know.
Right.
Sounds reasonable, but when it's like someone that you trust, that you've already like done business with, relationship wise, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, like I trust what my partner said, right? And then you action on it. And I think one thing about business too, like there's no right or wrong answer, actually. Or actually, maybe think about it. There definitely are wrong answers, but like there are multiple right. I mean, a better way of saying there's multiple right answers.
Right.
And the only way that you move forward is like, I mean, one, obviously don't make the wrong decision. Like, but even if you get like the 60% right answer versus like the 80% right answer, just the fact that you take the 60% answer and then you get moved like six steps down. You're like, oh, okay, all right. Well, this is going to get me all the way there, but I'm like at least more than halfway there. And then you kind of like, all right, well, how do I fix this next 40%? That's a way easier problem than like just sitting there and being like, I got 10 steps to take, and I'm just like, and you're just kind of fumbling around. At least you're kind of moving progress, right? And I feel like, at least that's for me, is you got to just keep moving, right? Like there's no benefit in just sitting there and like thinking about a problem. Like, all right, I got a problem. What's some of the ways I can do this? All right, this sounds right. Let me do that, and then I'll figure it out, right? Like maybe tell us a little about maybe like a story you have, like having a problem and maybe not having the best answer immediately, but just kind of figuring it out and like kind of what did that get you?
Oh man. Um
Yeah, we come with the hard questions here on STR like the best, brother.
yeah, I've been especially the last year, I've been dealing with so much, including a lawsuit.
Tell us. I mean, if you want to tell us about it.
So I actually like to tell people about it so that they can be careful.
Yeah.
Our team might have used some photos that we didn't own. And long story short, I got sued for it. And it dragged on for like about a year. It was, it was like kind of like one of those, he sent one of those copyright troll lawyers after me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he actually even filed a couple of months ago, he filed a federal lawsuit against me. So to everyone watching, don't use any photos that you don't own. Don't use any music that you don't own. And I tell all my friends, if you have a website, make sure they are ADA compliant, because I heard the lawyers are trolling people and extorting people for money that if you're not ADA compliant on your website as well.
Interesting. ADA compliant. Yeah, no, I've seen some of that stuff now. Wait, so did you just use some photos that weren't yours or something, and then they got mad? Like, what was that? What actually happened?
So
was it like your listing photos or like a profile picture? Like, what did you do?
It was some amenity photos of it was like a pool or something like that, and like it was kind of stupid, really. Like our photographer took the photos of a pool, but like she didn't upload them yet, so we were just kind of like, oh, let's just borrow these in the meantime. And we actually we borrowed it from another host that was in the same building, and we actually know him, so we were like, oh, he wouldn't care, right? And then
he sued
next
you?
thing you know, no, 2 months later, the photographer sent the lawyer after me. And
what?
Yeah, because the host, he was like, I told him about it. He's like, oh, that's ridiculous. And he's like, that's a lot of money he's asking for. I'm like, who's to say he even owns these photos? And then we were trying to figure it out. And then, he was scared to get sued himself. He didn't want to get involved. So eventually,
I get that. Yeah. Damn, that sucks, dude. Just for some photos? That's crazy.
I know. And, you live and you learn. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, that's smart. So everyone here that's listening, make sure, all your listing photos, you actually own the photos, or like your photographer took them, you have the right license. If you're using free stuff online, make sure there's like the free license stuff. Like you're not just taking it from someone else's website, because that can definitely get you some problems. The ADA thing, that's actually pretty interesting. I'm kind of curious on. I wonder if the PMS providers, like I use Hostaway, they have their own website. I wonder if that's ADA compliant. I'm actually literally going to send a Slack message to them right now and ask them, is that ADA?
I think there are websites where you can test your site to see if it's ADA compliant, and then if it's not, they will tell you like, oh, you can use this plugin or this software for like $50 a month or something like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Definitely find out, because it's skyrocketing, the cases of like
I've seen that actually too. It's I don't know, man. It's really just kind of annoys me about our system here. It's like entrepreneurs like working hard to make money, and then you got these like trolls out there that's like just trying to, use the law. Of course, obviously stuff should be ADA compliant and everything, but like I think these lawyers out there aren't really they're trying to line their pocket versus like serve a public good. So we don't have to. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that lawsuit. But look, there are like, there's, but I think to that point where like problems, right? There are always going to be problems. And like my good buddy, he's another short-term rental operator. His name is Syed. And he actually, I've known him for, this is like 2016, long time. We actually met on a random meetup here in New York. And he operates in Chicago, has a great business. We've helped each other out a lot over the years. But one thing he always said, the more I do business, the more I understand this and the more I get it. It's like, you want the problems that you can solve with a little bit of money. those are the best problems, actually. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's like a 100, a couple of thousand, obviously depending on the situation, right? Like if you can solve a problem with money and just get rid of it and then just focus your time on making money, like that's just a way better place to be. The problems that like you can't solve with money, right? Like just think about like health problems or like, I mean, obviously,
Right.
like, you know, there are a lot of frivolous losses out there, but like there are problems where you can't solve with money, and those are the worst problems. Like if you can solve something with a little bit of money that like isn't going to set you back too bad, and then you can free up your mind and your energy to go and like solve bigger problems that is going to like 2, 3, 10, 100x that. Because like entrepreneurship, fundamentally, it's how much time and energy you have on, and once you kind of build a business out, it's like how much time and energy you have to build your business. And that's why you like hiring people is important, right? Because then take away the problems that like you get back your time and energy, technology, kind of same thing. And then so all you do, you're focusing on like problems that other people can't solve, right? Like where's the next unit? Like what's the next growth strategy? Someone else can't figure it out for you. That's a Chewy problem, right?
For
Other
sure.
stuff like it's your VA's problem or like a cleaner problem or like whatever it is. Like I don't know. I really think about that all the time. It's like, all right, I got this problem right now. Like, can I solve it with money? Do I have someone else take care of it? Do I have a technology do it? And I just like do that. And then only it's like, all right, I just want to solve the problems that like Michael Chang like has to solve. And then like I think about it like, okay, like what's the problem that's gonna make me the most money? Like what's the biggest upside? Like I'm gonna focus on those problems and the little stuff that's not urgent. That's
For sure.
I'll figure something else, figure something else out there. Because your time is so precious, you know?
No, the mental space that it took up, that it was just like keeping me up at night, you know, and it was just like, it was a headache.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, look, yeah, for folks listening here, you know, we all have problems. They're all, you know, whether you are in Airbnb or not, you know, whatever issue you're having, right? Just think about the mental space. Like, actually, I'm gonna share a story. I'm gonna share a story with me where like it further crystallized that lesson. So it was like this cleaner that I had, and I let him go. Right? I was like, you know, this isn't working out, and I had someone, and then you know he sends me this invoice that like was really inflated by like 2x, but it really all in was like 3K of like extra money he wanted. And then he basically was like, you owe me for this, this, and this. And then I was like, no, I don't. You actually owe me that. Whatever, right? And then I was just like, I'm not paying, like, I pay what I owed, right? And I was like, look, this is just ridiculous. And it's just a cash grab, and I'm not going to deal with it. And of course, he goes and files like a mechanics lien on my properties, which cost like $10 for him to do. So it was nothing. And like, I could definitely get that solved. Like, but then I would like hire a lawyer, got to go to court, get that dismissed, you know, do all this stuff. And it was just like, it took up all this mental space. Right. And Liz, my wife, is like, she told me she did before, just like make a deal with him and settle it. Right. It's not worth your time. And I was like, no, the principle of it, it's wrong. It's wrong. Like, this is not fair. And she's like, look, I mean, you know, think about the time and the energy you're going to spend. And then she was like, Mike, you probably just need to learn this lesson. I was like, all right, fine. And I did, because it was like a year and a half. And then, you know, I need to do some stuff legally. And I had kids. I want to do some stuff to protect the property. And I knew that like I had this out there, and I knew I could fight it, but I was like, okay, spend 10K and 6 months to deal with it, or just give the guy 3, make nice, and dealt with it. Right. So yeah, like message him, made nice, zelled him. He, you know, I think it took a little more time than he needed to, but he also, you know, was a man of his word, got those releases. And, you know, like I could have saved myself just that. It wasn't even the money. It was actually just the brain damage of like doing research on lawyers and what does mechanically actually mean? How do you perfect it? All these things that like I will never use again. Right. Where I could have spent that time getting more units or optimizing my operations or spending time with my kids. So I don't know. I always think about that now when I have these kind of problems. So if anyone's listening, you're hearing me and Chewy's story, like these are good problems to have. Just like a little bit of money, get rid of the problem, and focus on the bigger things in life. So I appreciate you sharing that story. You know, kind of running past our time here, and you know, I want to talk, and the last time I want to talk about is this like really cool Facebook group that you put together, and it's grown so much. Like, tell us a little about Host Helping Hosts, Like, tell us a little about that story, about how you created and the people that you're helping.
Yeah, so I just kind of randomly um was I randomly, I'm in a bunch of these Facebook groups, and I was always trying to like offer like management services or whatever like that. And then I saw that a lot of people were like calling me scammers or like banning me, or like, the owners, the group owners wouldn't allow that. So then a year ago, I was like, you know what? I was tired of it. I was like, let me just start my own group. And that's how it started. I was just tired of, people not letting me do what I wanted to do. So I started my own group. Um, I just try to be active. I try to make posts in there, try to be informative, try to give value. And, with, its peaks and lows of like me being active and not in the group. And time went by, and just like a month or two ago, people just started randomly joining by like the hundreds, and it just kept growing and growing, and I just continued, because once it starts rolling and there's like people asking questions and I'm able to like be active and answer the questions and stuff like that, then it just kind of kept snowballing, and now we're at 30K.
Yeah, 30K. Congratulations. Hey, I'm gonna
Thank you.
look, and I'm in a lot of those Facebook groups too. I think yours is different. Like, it really provides, you're not selling anything, you're like providing a lot of value. I think that's why it's grown so big. I'm going to drop a link of that on the show notes here too. If you're an Airbnb operator, it's a free group. I highly recommend you joining it and reading through. There's some really good nuggets on there. And truly, like, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach you besides the Facebook group?
Probably just on Instagram. That's Chewy. CHEWYYY, L with an L at the end. Chewy L.
Chewy L. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna drop Chewy's Instagram handle in the show notes as well. He's kind of like me, fellow guy, Asian American. We're based in New York. We have a business outside of New York, and just like just scaling and running a business from afar. But I think short-term rentals has both really positively impacted our lives, and happy to share this journey with you. And Chewy, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for being like open with the stories, talking about the good and bad. And last question, I used to ask the question a lot, and I've kind of gone away from that, but I want to ask you this question because we've gotten to know each other a little bit. What's the kindest thing that someone's done for you in this journey that's like really helped you along?
I remember you asked me this question last time, and yeah. I think I have the same answer. It was my business partner who gave me those 5 units in Utah, and it just really helped me get everything rolling. And he didn't want a referral fee. He didn't want anything in return. I guess he also sees the value I provide in other ways. So he didn't want any monetary compensation or anything. So I really thought that was a very kind thing of him to do.
Yeah. Shout out to your business partner. And yeah, like I think there's a study out there that's like, people that give are like happiest people. And I don't think it's like the act of generosity. I actually think it's, I think one, like you're doing something good without the expectation of return. I think that in itself is just like charity. And I think it's just like a really great feeling to have. And then two, I think you just surround yourself with people that like actually appreciate that about you, and your network is of people that like appreciate generosity and like people being open and giving, like having an abundance mindset. And I think if you're around a lot of people that have an abundance mindset, just makes your life better, because like everyone's just kind of always giving to each other without, it's like a family, just like, or a good family at least, everyone's just kind of giving without any extra return. And like, it just builds on each other. And it's just like everyone's happy and thriving, and it's just like a great community to be in. So yeah, like that's awesome to hear. I remember you said that about your business partner, and shout out to if he's listening, shout out to him. Just great to hear the positive impact. So folks, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and see you guys in the next one. Thanks Chewy, for joining.
Thanks, Michael. See you soon.